The small town of Aurous Hill welcomes two special guests. Shoude Su will be searching for Liona and Zhiyu. Meanwhile, the other guest, Steve Hogwitz from America, will be searching for his son, Walter Hogwitz, who has gone missing in the city. This night will be a terrible one for both of them. These two wealthy individuals are unaware that they are being watched by the Dragon Eyes. Ruoli is thrilled to be with Charlie tonight. Viewers, this story is getting more and more exciting. Please stay tuned. Thank you.
Chapter 2466. Isaac asked again, "Then when are you going to act on Shoude and Steve?" Charlie thought for a while, and said, "For these 2 days, first observe the two of them and see what actions they have." After speaking, Charlie further ordered, "Old man, you have the widest network in Aurous Hill. You must give it to me and keep an eye on them. No matter where they have been or who they have met, report to me as soon as possible." Isaac said without hesitation, "Master, don't worry, I will make arrangements." Charlie nodded, and said with a little regret, "Why didn't the two of them choose to stay in your hotel?" Isaac smiled and said, "Master, that Walter lived in the Aurous Hill International Hotel before he disappeared. It is normal for his father to live there. As for Shoude, the Su family knows that this is the property of the Wade family. How could he come here to stay?" Charlie asked curiously. With such a large property in the Su family, he didn't buy any property in Aurous Hill. Isaac shook his head and said, "The Su family had a negotiation with the Wade family a few years ago. The two parties agreed on the commercial development of the two sides. In the city selected by the Su family, the Wade family would not buy a home. The reverse is also true. It was within the territory selected by the Wade family, so the Su family did not engage in industry here." Charlie asked him, "Then what is the basis for dividing the business territory of the two parties?" Isaac said, "It was your grandfather and Chungfeng who had a face-to-face meeting. After all, the strength of the two families is similar, and their businesses are blooming everywhere. He didn't want to continue to fight in second-tier cities, so they privately defined a range. For example, in the southeast capital cities, Aurous Hill is the Wade family, and Suhong is the Su family territory. In the final analysis, the Su family has a stronger voice. When dividing the business map, all the materials of Suzhou and Hangzhou were significantly better than those of Aurous Hill. Therefore, the Su family first picked Suhong away and left Aurous Hill to Wade's." "Understood." Charlie nodded slightly, and then asked, "Then since Regnar Wu is the richest man in Suhong, why didn't he hear of anything to do with the Su family?" Isaac smiled and said, "You see, the Song family is the richest in Aurous Hill, and it has nothing to do with the Wade family." After speaking, Isaac continued to explain, "In fact, the main purpose of the Su-Wade family's delineation is to avoid competition between the two sides, which is equivalent to a gentleman's agreement. However, local families are generally deeply entrenched. It is very difficult for us to confront the local snakes, or even crush each other. After all, most of the strength of the two families is still concentrated in Eastcliff. China is so big, and the strength that everyone can spread across the country is not that strong. Whether it is the Wade family or the Su family, the total assets that can be invested in other cities in China are only hundreds of billions of dollars. However, in addition to Eastcliff, there are 3 first-tier cities in the country, and second-tier cities like Aurous Hill are even bigger. So on average, the human, material, and financial resources that can be invested in each city are not large. After all, I'm in Aurous Hill, which means I just guard the Wade family's stronghold in Aurous Hill." After speaking, Isaac said again, "Just like the Wade family, if you don't count the Embrand group that was bought for you, young master, then the Wade family in Aurous Hill, and it doesn't actually have much business. The main part of the Wade family in Aurous Hill is the hotel. In addition, there are several security companies that do not seem to have any relationship on the surface. Then they participated in some projects. The total assets in Aurous Hill add up scattered. It's only around 1 or 2 tens of billions, which is far behind the Song family's 100 billion assets. My most important task over the years is not to help the Wade family make money in Aurous Hill, but to help the Wade family develop contacts, networks, and a complete intelligence system in Aurous Hill, turning Aurous Hill into a component of the Wade family's neural network. It's like a tentacle of an octopus, and I can report any disturbance to the Wade family in time. Speaking of this, Isaac couldn't help but laughed at himself and said, "Actually, if it were not for the young master you were in Aurous Hill, the Wade family would not pay much attention to the situation here. There are many spokespersons like me in the Wade family all over the country. Those who really have a strong voice are the spokespersons of 3 first-tier cities." Charlie nodded. "I understand, since the Su family has no foundation in Aurous Hill, it is more proactive for us." Isaac agreed and said, "Yes, when the Su family is here, even if there is an emergency, it will only take a few hours to dispatch troops from Eastcliff temporarily." After speaking, he asked again, "By the way, Master, if the time is right and you are ready to do something with them, do you have any suitable helper?" Charlie nodded and smiled. "Of course. In this regard, I already have the most suitable candidate in my heart." Isaac asked, "Who is it?" Charlie said with a smile, "Ruoli." As soon as Isaac heard that Charlie wanted to use Ruoli, he immediately asked with some worry, "Master, Ruoli is not sure whether she is uncontrollable. She has been under house arrest by us. If she is released, will she not take the opportunity to escape?" Charlie shook his head. "From what I know about her, she definitely won't." Isaac asked inexplicably, "Master, why are you so sure? This woman has always been cruel, not a fuel-efficient lamp." Charlie smiled and said, "She was so miserable under sus. Now that she has the opportunity to catch Shoude first, it is also a chance for her to take revenge. Based on this, she cannot turn back." After speaking, Charlie said again, "And now she is missing from the Su family's view. Once she really gets rid of my control or my asylum, she will probably be discovered by the Su family. At that time, the Su family will definitely kill her." I took another 10,000 steps and said that even if the Su family didn't do anything to her, if the Japanese government knew where she was, they would never let her go. After all, she is the fugitive that the Japanese government wanted most to catch. Isaac nodded and said seriously, "I understand that, young master. If you say so, Ruoli is indeed a good candidate. Her personal strength is very strong. Acting with you will not only help you, but also will hold her back." Charlie smiled and said, "In the recent period, Ruoli's strength has improved again. It is no longer the same as when she was in Sus house before." After that, he stood up and said, "You stay in the office, and I'll have a chat with Ruoli." Isaac hurriedly asked, "Master, what about Liona and Zhiyu?" Charlie said, "They should be able to wake up tomorrow morning. Tonight, you just need to arrange someone to guard the gate. By the way, let someone buy some change of laundry and daily necessities in advance, prepare the items, and deliver them early tomorrow morning." Isaac said immediately, "Okay, young master." Charlie said again, "Also, do you know Liona and Zhiyu?" Isaac thought for a while and said, "I know them, but they should not know me." "That's good." Charlie said, "When they wake up tomorrow, no matter what questions they ask about me, you don't answer them. They ask you where this is, and you don't answer. They have to leave or talk to me. You can never agree to contact with the outside world. Just tell them and I will let them stay here honestly." Isaac said immediately, "Okay master, I understand." At the same time, Ruoli was practicing in the room. Since the last time, Charlie completely opened up her Ren vessel, she has felt the tremendous progress made by leaps and bounds. Therefore, taking advantage of this good opportunity, she spent all her time and energy on practicing, and her strength continued to improve like a rocket. However, in addition to practicing hard these days, she would always think of Charlie uncontrollably. These days, she would always be involuntarily in her mind, thinking about Charlie's good. Whether it was Charlie saving her, or Charlie helping her to open up her line of power and let her strength grow by leaps and bounds, to him, she was deeply grateful. If she thinks too much, she will naturally look forward to seeing Charlie more. But Charlie didn't seem to always come to this hotel, so she was somewhat regretful. Just when she was practicing the exercises until she was sweating, the doorbell suddenly rang. Ruoli suddenly became a little excited. She lived here for a period of time to understand the service rules of the service staff here. 3 meals a day are scheduled here, and the service staff will prepare food, drink and daily necessities for delivery. At other times, the service staff will not take the initiative to interrupt. But now is not time to eat, so it is most likely that Charlie is here. Thinking of this, Ruoli hurried to the door happily. Through the display screen, she saw Charlie standing at the door of her room at a glance, and her heart suddenly jumped for joy. She just remembered that she didn't tidy up her clothes, she was still wearing the most basic exercise underwear, and she suddenly hesitated. She didn't know whether to change clothes or open the door to Charlie first. However, after another thought, she was still worried that it would be inappropriate for Charlie to wait too long, so she didn't care about that much, and opened the door directly. The moment the door opened, Charlie saw Ruoli, who was only wearing sports underwear, and was somewhat embarrassed for an instant. Ruoli also blushed a little shamefully and said, "I'm sorry young master, I was in a hurry just now, and I didn't care about packing myself up. Or if you come in and sit down, I will change my clothes." Charlie walked into the room, smiled slightly, and said, "I just came here to tell you something and see if you are interested in doing it with me." Ruoli immediately became even more embarrassed when she heard this, and she kept on asking, "Master, I don't know what you are talking about." Quote. Charlie didn't know that she had a misunderstanding, and said with a serious face, "Shoude has come to Aurous Hill, I plan to find a suitable time to directly control him." Ruoli instantly woke up from the embarrassment just now, and blurted out, "Shoude. How did he come to Aurous Hill? Is it to target you?" Charlie shook his head and said, "No, Shoude is here to find Liona and Zhiyu." Ah. Ruoli was even more puzzled. Why did he come to see the grandma and the eldest lady? Ruoli is here under house arrest. Although she is not at all guilty, she does not have any contact with the outside world, and there is no channel for obtaining information from the outside world such as mobile phones and computers. Therefore, Ruoli didn't know the big event that happened in Aurous Hill today. So Charlie probably introduced the cause and effect of the incident to Ruoli. When Ruoli heard that Elder Su actually instructed people to assassinate Liona, and even some people wanted to kill Zhiyu alongside her, the whole person was filled with righteous indignation and said, "The facts of the Su family are too sinister and nasty. The same trick has been used on me once, and it will be used on my grandmother, and even the eldest lady is involved." As she said, she couldn't help but said a little lonely, "Actually, my grandmother has always been kind to me, but she didn't know my true identity before, Miss. She was kind to me too, but she didn't know before. I am her half-sister. I don't know now how to face her in the future." Immediately, she hurriedly asked Charlie, "Master, are you okay with her and eldest lady now?" Charlie nodded lightly and said, "Don't worry, their lives are no longer in danger, and they are safe." "It's great." Ruoli breathed a sigh of relief, and then immediately said firmly and unwaveringly, "Young master, if you can trust Ruoli, Ruoli is willing to follow you and serve you. Whatever you ask of her." At this moment, Aurous Hill International Hotel. Shoude's motorcade stopped a row directly in front of the hotel. Before he got out of the car, the security personnel had already rushed down and wiped out everyone around him. At this time, the hotel's manager also brought dozens of security guards and greeted him graciously. He respectfully said to Shoude's assistant, "May I ask Mr. Su, what can we do for you?" "As long as there is, please Mr. Su bring it up, we will definitely go all out." Shoude's assistant said coldly, "It's not used here for the time being. You let all your people back off. Don't let any of your staff run into Mr. Su without permission. As for other guests, you must not allow them within 10 meters of Mr. Su." The hotel manager nodded without hesitation, and said graciously, "As long as there is anything specific, please speak up." Shoude got out of the car with Steve Hogwitz at this time. After getting out of the car, Shoude straightened his collar and said in a somewhat majestic tone, "Steve, let's have dinner together tonight, by the way. Also communicate in detail the details of your son's disappearance." Steve was naturally flattered, and said hurriedly, "Okay Mr. Su. I'm causing you trouble." Shoude asked him again, "Oh yes, which room do you live in? Do you know the room number?" Steve said, "Because the rooms above the executive deluxe suite are gone, I can only book a normal deluxe suite. I don't know the specific room number. I don't know until after checking in at the front desk." Shoude said indifferently, "The rooms above the executive deluxe suite are gone, because I have completely covered the entire executive floor." Steve was taken aback for a moment, and hurriedly complimented, "No wonder, Mr. Su's handwriting is really too big." Shoude waved his hand slightly, and said calmly, "What's the deal? If it weren't for the agreement with the Wade family, I would have bought this hotel with ease." With that, he opened his mouth and said to his assistant, "Say hello to the hotel manager, change the room to Mr. Steve and let him live next door to me." The assistant immediately nodded and said, "No problem, I'll let the front desk arrange it." Steve was a little embarrassed at once, because he did not come alone this time, he also brought some entourages and bodyguards. It's just that those people had no chance to get on Shoude's motorcade, so they had to take a taxi to the hotel. They haven't arrived yet. If he lives on the executive floor alone and is separated from his other entourage bodyguards, it will be more or less troublesome. Shoude saw his concerns and said, "Well, let me arrange another room. For you. You can let your assistant live in, but your bodyguard should not live on the executive floor. My people are here. It will definitely make you safer." Steve knew in his heart that he didn't have many bodyguards. Coupled with the fact that his son had brought them to China before, almost all the entourage had disappeared, so there were not many people who could be used in Aurous Hill, and the security force was not strong. But Shoude is different. He is the second child of the Su family. The Su family is so strong, secretly don't know how many masters are protecting his safety at all times. For Steve, if he can live on the same floor with Shoude, or even next door, his own safety can also be greatly guaranteed. So he was very grateful and said, "Thank you, Mr. Su. You are really taking care of me." Shoude smiled slightly, and said to Steve with a lofty posture, "In China, as long as you have a good relationship with the Su family, no matter where you are, we can keep you unblocked." After that, he asked Steve, "Do you know the name of your son's college classmate in Aurous Hill? I will ask someone to check her information now." Steve hurriedly said, "I once heard my son talk about it. It seems to be called Doris. It is said that this woman is quite capable. She is the chairman of a very large listed company in Aurous Hill." Shoude looked at his assistant and said in a serious tone, "I will give you 5 minutes to check, what is the origin of this Doris?" "Okay, boss." 5 minutes later, as soon as Shoude stepped into his presidential suite, his assistant hurried over and said, "Boss, I have already investigated. That Doris is the vice chairman of Aurous Hill Embrand Group. She is very famous in Aurous Hill and a well-known entrepreneur." Shoude nodded and said, "Before 12 o'clock this evening, bring this Doris over to see me. I have something to ask her in person." The assistant hurriedly said, "Boss, Doris flew to Hong Kong early this morning. They have real estate-related cooperation in Hong Kong." "Go to Hong Kong." Shoude frowned slightly. At first, he was a little confused, but quickly realized that he came here today with a temporary motive. It seems that this person shouldn't escape Aurous Hill intentionally, but can only say that it was a coincidence. So he nodded and said, "Then you can keep an eye on what's going on at the airport. Once this Doris returns to Aurous Hill, tell me immediately." After that, he asked again, "What is the origin of the Embrand Group you mentioned?" The assistant hurriedly explained, "The Embrand Group is Aurous Hill's largest group company with a market value of more than 100 billion. It was originally a real estate company born and raised in Aurous Hill, but it seems to have been wholly owned by the Wade family last year." "Acquired by the Wade family?" Shoude asked in surprise, "What is the intention of the Wade family to buy a real estate company in Aurous Hill?" "This is not clear." The assistant said truthfully, "I only know that there are rumors that the boss behind the Embrand Group is the Wade families, but who he is in the Wade family is currently unclear." Shoude snorted, "Isn't there just a few people in the Wade family? Changying is dead, rest of his brothers are mediocre people." The assistant nodded and asked, "Boss, since this Doris belongs to the Wade family, do we still need to move her?" Shoude immediately replied, "Move, of course. This woman is the only possible clue I can find at the moment. I can't just give up just because she is from the Wade family." After that, Shoude said in a cold voice, "As long as she is not aware of it, and don't leave any evidence, the Wade family won't be able to talk to us." "Okay boss, I get it." Shoude lowered his voice and continued to order, "Now we will select 10 masters and check the whereabouts of Liona and Zhiyu in major hospitals in the city from recent days. I think if they are still alive, they should have a high probability now of being there. They were treated secretly in a certain hospital. You lead someone to find them for me. I have a great reward for them." The assistant hurriedly asked him, "Boss, what should I do after I find them?" Shoude smiled coldly. Inject a little bit of rice into their food and use 10 times the lethal dose to make sure they can't escape death no matter how hard their luck is with them. In the evening, when Charlie returned home, the 10 masters and soldiers of the Sioux family were divided into 5 groups and began to patrol every hospital in Aurous Hill. At the same time, Shoude asked Steve out to prepare a sumptuous dinner in the restaurant of his presidential suite. Although the economic strength of the Steve family is tens of thousands of miles worse than that of the Sioux family, in Shoude's view, Steve's mother is a member of the Rothschild family after all, so there is no relationship with him. What's bad having him closer? Steve was naturally too excited. Although his mother was indeed a woman from the Rothschild family, he knew very well that there were at least hundreds of women in the Rothschild family like his mother. And his mother and grandfather's line is not named in the Rothschild family. He is a relative of the Rothschild family, to put it bluntly, is just to gain a reputation. Now that he has the opportunity to make friends with the Sioux family, the top Chinese family, it is naturally a very valuable thing for him. Maybe in the future, he can rely on the Sioux family to quickly lay a foundation in China. Therefore, while Steve was so excited, he couldn't find his son Walter, who had been missing for a long time, and sat up on the wine table with Shoude's faithful dog licking. Just when the two of them were enjoying each other company, Charlie received a WeChat from Isik. The content of the WeChat was, "Master, the people of the Sioux family are investigating the background of the Embrand group. At the same time, they have sent a master to sneak into the major hospitals in Aurous Hill, secretly looking for Liona and Zhiyu's whereabouts." Charlie sneered in his heart, and replied, "Shoude is okay, he has found the Embrand group. He can't wait to find me out and meet." Isik said, "Master, rest assured, the outside world only knows about the acquisition by the Wades of the Embrand group, but they don't know who the chairman of the Embrand group is. I believe he will not be able to find you in a short time." Charlie replied immediately, "Don't give him a chance, I will take him to visit the Orville's dog farm tonight." Isik hurriedly asked, "Master, are you ready to do this tonight?" Charlie replied, "Yes, it's tonight. Go talk to Ruoli and let her prepare." Isik hurriedly said, "Okay master, is there anything I need to prepare?" Charlie said, "Tell Orville, just let the dog farm be prepared. After all, Shoude is the second master of the Sioux family. He has an unusual background. Let Orville make a separate dog cage for him." Isik asked, "What about Steve? Do you want to prepare it for him?" Charlie said, "When Steve arrives at the kennel, it must be a moving scene with Walter his son. Then let him live in a dog cage with his son. Oh, by the way, you ask Orville to prepare some flowers, to give the father and son a whole little warm atmosphere." "Okay young master, I see." Aurous Hill International Hotel. Shoude, who was full of food and drink, stood alone in front of the luxurious French windows of the presidential suite, looking at the night view of Aurous Hill. However, he is not in a good mood at this time, because the whereabouts of Liona and Zhiyu are unknown. He is afraid that his murder attempt of Zhiyu will be exposed. He was actually very clear in his heart. Even if the old man is no longer a thing, the love for Zhiyu in the old man's heart is indeed from the heart. If Zhiyu died, of course everyone would be happy. In that case, both Jufei and Xin will be exiled to Australia, and no one in the Sioux family can threaten my status. Furthermore, if Zhiyu is dead, it will definitely deal a big blow to the old man. Maybe it can make him belch earlier, and it will also help me inherit the position of Sioux family patriarch earlier. However, if Zhiyu is not dead, then every moment is a huge threat to me." Thinking like this, the assistant knocked on the door. After Shoude let him in, he asked, "How are the things going?" The assistant hurriedly said respectfully, "Boss, the masters sent out have already touched the entire Aurous Hill hospital, but didn't find the two of them." "No." Shoude frowned and asked, "Are you sure that every hospital has been investigated?" "Yes." The assistant nodded and said seriously, "Not only the tertiary hospitals, but even the ordinary small clinics have been searched, and they have not been found." Shoude immediately slapped his lips, "Tisk tisk. It's a bit weird. They're not in the hospital, is it that they're dead?" Having said that, he immediately opened his mouth and said, "Go and check the current progress of the police investigation. Is there any breakthrough?" The assistant said truthfully, "Boss, I have already inquired about the police's situation. They don't have any clues." They are now monitoring the bullet shells collected at the tunnel site and want to push back clues from the gunner. Shoude frowned and asked him, "Where are Liona and Zhiyu? The police have no clues." "No." The assistant nodded, "The police are just as confused as us." "Damn." Shoude cursed in a low voice, then continued to ask, "Are there any investigation results about the mysterious group of people?" The group rushed in through the tunnel entrance and took Liona away. Zhiyu also took away Stuart and the four of them, let alone 6 big living people. Even 6 corpses are not so easy to deal with. After all, are they not going to leave some clues? The assistant said, "The police have no idea about this at all." Shoude stomped his feet irritably and cursed, "It's fucking wicked." After speaking, he asked, "How is the PR network doing now?" The assistant replied, "The PR has basically controlled the situation. At present, 70% of the content of the discussion on this matter on the internet is inclined to the Su family, thinking that the Su family is the biggest victim, and want to murder Liona and Zhiyu is a false narrative. I believe that as long as we continue to maintain such an overwhelming coverage of public opinion, within a few days, people across the country will believe that we are innocent." Shoude breathed a sigh of relief and said, "You did a good job with this matter. If the old man is also satisfied, I will definitely not treat you badly." The assistant bowed immediately and said, "Thank you, boss." Shoude gave a hum and ordered, "There is one more thing, you can arrange it for me." The assistant hurriedly said, "Boss, please tell me." Shoude said with a grim expression, "Although Shred's family didn't know that I gave them 20 million and asked them to tell Shred to kill one more, that is Zhiyu, but once they shake this thing out, it will be passed on to the old man. In his eyes, then I am the biggest suspect, so you send someone to his hometown tonight and set a fire to destroy all the evidence, understand?" The assistant nodded, "Okay boss, I get it." After that, the assistant received a piece of information, took a quick look, and reported to Su, "Boss, Ms. Zena's plane has landed at Aurous Hill Airport. You will be at the hotel in 40 minutes. When Shoude heard this, a trace of desire flashed in his eyes, and his heart couldn't help but feel a little rippling. Miss Zena in the assistant's mouth is Zena, one of the 4 young talents in today's entertainment industry. This Zena is only 26 years old this year. She graduated from the film school for 4 years. She is very beautiful, but because she is not very good at acting and has no background, she has been unknown in the film and television circles for the past 2 years. However, since the year before last, Zena has successively obtained the film resources of many top directors, which can be described as a steady pace, and soon ranks among the super first-line actors. Many people speculate that there must be a gold master behind her, but as long as the relevant speculation posts are posted, they will be deleted immediately and will not spread at all. The reason is that Zena was taken in by Shoude, who was taken into his bag and made his canary. Under normal circumstances, as long as Shoude has a chance to leave the city, Zena will come over to have a tryst with him, and today is no exception. When Shoude decided to come to Aurous Hill, he asked Zena, who was filming in the South China Sea, to prepare to rush over. So Zena stepped up to finish filming today's scene, and immediately took a sick leave with the crew, secretly took a private jet, and rushed to Aurous Hill. When he heard that Zena was about to land, Shoude felt a little excited, and said to his assistant, "Okay, you go out. I want to take a bath. When Miss Zena comes, you will send her directly into the room, see me." Shoude had a good plan for himself. Before Zena arrived, he took a bath to relieve fatigue. When Zena arrived, he could go straight to the topic with her. It is rare to have such a chance to get rid of the yellow-faced woman at home, and naturally take the opportunity to stay with Zena for a few days. Putting off the hot water, Shoude took off his clothes and climbed into the bathtub, soaking his slightly fat body in the hot water. Feeling happy in his heart, he didn't know that he was only 20 minutes away from hell on earth. At this moment, Charlie and Ruoli had quietly touched into the Aurous Hill International Hotel. Needless to say, Charlie's skills, as for Ruoli, she was originally a master of internal boxing carefully cultivated by the He family, and she has received a lot of professional training for bodyguards and killers, and her strength in this area is also very impressive. More importantly, during this period of time, Ruoli's veins were completely opened up with the help of Charlie, and the overall strength has improved a lot, so it is not a problem to sneak into the Aurous Hill International Hotel with Charlie. Before coming, Isaac had investigated the location of Shoude and Steve's rooms in Aurous Hill International Hotel. Shoude directly undertook the entire administrative floor, so his bodyguards, as well as the masters of the Su family, were mostly arranged in the rooms near the elevator entrance and staircase entrance. In their view, the entrance of the stairs and the elevator is the throat of the entire executive floor, and the executive floor is on the 20th floor, the highest floor of the hotel, so as long as they guard the stairs and elevator, they can ensure that Shoude is safe. However, they didn't expect that Charlie and Ruoli would choose to take a helicopter and break through their defense directly from the top. However, the roar of the helicopter was very loud. Even if the helicopter was at a height of several hundred meters, from the ground it could be heard clearly. And it was even deafening. Therefore, Charlie specially asked Isaac to arrange a fireworks show to cover. It was 11:30 at night. On the river opposite the International Hotel, huge fireworks suddenly set off. The fireworks were set off on a boat on the river surface. The huge firework pellets soared into the sky, bursting at a height of more than 100 meters above the river surface, and for a while, the entire river surface became extremely lively. The fireworks exploded one after another, and the sound kept resounding on both sides of the river. For a while, many people were awakened from their dreams, and many people who were not asleep rushed to the bedside to watch with excitement. No one knows why it is so late, and there are people setting off fireworks on the river. However, Aurous Hill itself is a city full of pyrotechnic and romantic atmosphere, and people often set off fireworks to confess love. No one is surprised. The fireworks continue to set off, bringing the entire river surface and the two sides of the bank to a colorful backdrop. The riverside side of Aurous Hill International Hotel was also illuminated like daylight. However, because this side is too bright, the other side naturally appears darker. At this moment, a helicopter in the sky quickly flew towards the roof of Aurous Hill International Hotel. The helicopter stays at an altitude of 150 meters, although it is impossible to eliminate the roaring noise during flight, but because the sound of the firework explosion is stronger, people cannot detect the presence of the helicopter at all. At this moment, inside the helicopter, Charlie and Ruoli sat side by side, and Isaac and two of his men sat opposite. When approaching the hotel, Isaac said with some worry, "Master, as far as I know, there are at least 20 or 30 masters around Shoude, not including the bodyguards he hired from the local security company. You and Miss Su are only 2 people, wouldn't it be too dangerous? How about I transfer some more people over?" Charlie waved his hand and said indifferently, "No, only a few people can touch it and withdraw quietly. If there are too many people, wouldn't it be the only way to come with a sword and a gun?" Isaac was a little apprehensive and said, "But young master, I don't know what the strength is. In case of danger, it will be difficult for us to support you effectively." Charlie smiled and said, "Don't worry about this. When you get to the top of the hotel, the helicopter doesn't need to go down. If Ruoli and I go down by cable, then you will hover in the sky and wait for about 10 minutes. Shoude and Steve will be taken to the balcony. When the time comes, you can adjust the ropes and pull us up. Then we will directly go to kennel." Isaac saw that Charlie had arranged everything, no longer said anything, and said firmly, "Okay master, we are waiting for you above the hotel." Charlie said to Ruoli again at this time, "Ruoli, you will be responsible for Steve Hogwitz later, and Shoude, I will solve it." Ruoli nodded slightly, and said respectfully, "Okay master." Charlie said, "Remember, try not to disturb other people. Let's go in and out quickly, and try to see that Shoude and that Steve have evaporated from the world, and they can't find any clues." "It is good." 1 minute later, the plane hovered over the roof of the hotel. Isaac's men immediately put down 2 extremely strong nylon ropes from both sides of the helicopter. After Charlie and Ruoli exchanged glances, each grabbed a rope and quickly slid directly from the sides of the helicopter. In the blink of an eye, the 2 quietly landed on the roof of the hotel. Afterwards, the 2 quietly touched the balcony of Shoude and Steve's room from the outside of the hotel. At this time, Steve didn't have any interest in the fireworks outside. He was lying in bed, trying to fall asleep a little anxiously, but because of the jet lag, he was almost not sleepy. In desperation, he had to decide to drink some wine to help him fall asleep. So he stood up and prepared to take a bottle of whiskey from the wine cabinet in the hotel room. At this moment, the sound of fireworks exploding again sounded outside, and he cursed a little irritably. I don't know which damn be it start it is. Fireworks are set off at this time. While muttering, he suddenly felt that someone patted his shoulder. At this moment, Steve was so scared that his hair stood up. There is only one person in the room, why would someone slap his shoulder? He subconsciously turned his head to look, and a charming Chinese woman looked at him with a smile. This woman is Ruoli. Steve immediately realized that the other party was not good, panicked, and was about to call for help. He felt that his neck was suddenly hit hard, and he fainted. At this time, Charlie also touched into Shoude's presidential suite. At this time, Shoude had just finished soaking in the bath, wrapped in a bathrobe and dangling cigar. While walking out of the bathroom, holding his mobile phone, he sent a voice WeChat message to Xena. Baby, how long will it take to arrive? The other party quickly replied, and the voice said in an extremely charming voice, Dear, wait for me for another 10 minutes. I have already entered the city and will be there soon. Shoude smiled obscenely. Let the driver drive faster. If you don't arrive within 10 minutes, I'll see him later, and I am going to beat you. After speaking, he loosened his finger and the voice was sent. At this moment, he suddenly heard a man laugh and say, Mr. Su, I see that beautiful woman's $1, you can't beat it. When Shoude heard this sound, his whole person was as if being electrocuted, and he jumped high all at once. Soon, he immediately followed the sound, and on a small stool in the bathroom door was a young man with a smile on his face. He was shocked and suddenly asked, You, who are you? Charlie sneered, Me, I'm the great benefactor of your Su family. Shoude said nervously, What kind of benefactor? You, what do you want to do? Charlie smiled, I'm really the great benefactor of your Su family. Your eldest brother's children Jufei and Zhiyu. They were kidnapped in Japan. I saved them. You said am I the great benefactor of your Su family? What? Shoude said dumbfounded. You are the mysterious master of Japan. Charlie asked with interest, What? Have you heard of me? Shoude vaguely said, I heard my niece talk about it. My father still keeps talking about it. If he has a chance to find you, he must thank you very much. As he said, he carefully looked at Charlie with a pair of eyes, trying to figure out whether this person was an enemy or a friend. He secretly analyzed in his heart, this kid suddenly appeared in my room. No matter how I look at it, it is because the person who came is not good. But, if he is really the mysterious person who rescued Jufei and Zhiyu in Japan, then he should have no malice towards the Su family, right? Charlie smiled at this time and said, Oh, if Su family really want to thank me, then it would be a really good, heartfelt gratitude. I just say it, because I not only saved the brother and sister, other than those two, also took a hand to save your elder brother's illegitimate daughter. Shoude's expression changed suddenly. My eldest brother's illegitimate daughter. You mean Ruoli. Seeing him in horror, Charlie nodded and said with a smile, Yes, I also rescued Ruoli. Shoude didn't know whether Charlie was an enemy or a friend, but now he had the answer in his heart. The man in front of him must be an unkind person. It was because of Ruoli's sudden disappearance that the old man's business with the Japanese self-defense force was not fulfilled, and it was completely exposed. The nervous Shoude immediately said, Hey brother, Ruoli's matter was the idea of my father alone, and I did not participate in it. Charlie nodded and smiled. I haven't finished speaking yet, don't worry about explaining your excuses. Shoude hurriedly said respectfully, Please say. Charlie snorted, tilted his long legs, and said leisurely, Your sister-in-law and your elder niece were kidnapped by the wanted man and almost died in a car accident. I saved them both. What? It's you. Shoude was even more terrified when he heard this. The last thing he wanted to see was that Liona and Zhiyu alive. Unexpectedly, they were also rescued by this young man. The nervous Shoude was afraid that Charlie would see his guilty conscience, so he hurriedly pretended to be excited and said, I didn't expect my sister-in-law and niece to be alive. It's great. Great. After speaking, he hurriedly said again, I came to this city this time to find their whereabouts. Don, you know, our family is very nervous about the safety of the mother and daughter. Before I came, my father told me, at all costs, safety of the two of them very important. I didn't expect them to be saved by you. Thank you so much. Charlie smiled and said, Shoude, I thought you all of the Su family men are old foxes with scheming fortunes. I didn't expect that your acting skills are so flamboyant and you are not at all interested. It really disappoints me. Shoude said nervously, Gentlemen, what do you mean by this? How can I not understand? While speaking, Shoude's brain was already running at high speed. He can now be sure that the young man in front of him has no good intentions, so what he thinks in his mind is how to get out of trouble. At this moment, the first thought that appeared in his mind was calling for help. On this floor of the hotel, there are at least 40 or 50 of my subordinates, and there are many masters among them. The combined combat effectiveness is amazing. This kid is not an opponent at all. However, this guy can quietly appear in my room. It proves that his personal strength is still very strong. Combined with the previous descriptions of him by Jufei and Zhiyu, this person can kill many top Japanese ninjas by himself. This shows that this person is extremely powerful. Even if my subordinates can beat him together, I am afraid that he will kill me directly when I call for help. Thinking of this, he immediately gave up the idea of calling for help. But, if I don't call for help, what should I do next? What if he wants to kill me? When he was struggling, Ruoli stepped in. When Shoude saw Ruoli, he immediately looked like a ghost, and said with a trembling, if. Ruoli, why are you here? Ruoli looked at him coldly and asked, what? You must be disappointed to see me alive. Shoude said in a panic, Ruoli, don't get me wrong. You are the flesh and blood of my elder brother and my niece. How could I wish you something? Ruoli gritted her teeth and cursed, Shoude, don't you pretend to be a good person here. Your Su family regarded me as cannon fodder and sold my life to the Japanese self-defense forces. Is it true that I don't know? Shoude explained in a panic, Ruoli. That was not my decision. It's all your grandpa. Ruoli immediately angered, he is not my grandfather. He is such a cruel and shameless SCM, I will kill him myself sooner or later. Seeing that Ruoli was a little excited, Charlie said indifferently, Ruoli, you must learn to control your emotions at all times, otherwise, no matter how talented you are, it will be difficult for you to become a master in the future. Ordinary practitioners only practice skin and muscles. As long as they practice hard, their temper and emotions will not have much impact on their own strength. However, for people like Ruoli, who practiced internal martial arts since childhood and mastered internal power, what they fear most is mentality problems. Otherwise, it is very likely that she will fall into a bottleneck period, and it will be difficult to break through. When Ruoli heard Charlie's words, she hurried back to her senses, controlled her emotions, and said ashamed, Thank you, Master Wade, for reminding me that I was too impulsive. Shoude heard this and pointed at Charlie and exclaimed, your surname Wade. Charlie nodded. Yes, my last name is Wade. Shoude blurted out, you from the Wade family. As soon as he finished speaking, he muttered to himself, impossible. I never heard of any masters from the Wade family. As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his head to look at Charlie, and the more he looked, the more he realized that this young man seemed very familiar. Seen somewhere. So, he racked his brains and thought carefully for a moment, and suddenly a face popped out of his mind, and this face immediately frightened him. He looked at Charlie and blurted out, why do you look like Changying Wade? Do you have any relation with him? Charlie put away his cynical expression, and said coldly, that is my father, I am his son, Charlie. The moment Charlie revealed his identity, Shoude's whole person was as if he was struck by 5 thunders. He looked at Charlie dumbfounded, and blurted out in panic, you really Changying's son? After saying this, he didn't wait for Charlie to answer, and he muttered to himself, it looks like this, there must be nothing wrong. Immediately afterwards, he hurriedly said, Mr. Wade, I am also considered to have some friendship with your dad. It stands to reason that you should call me uncle. Charlie said disdainfully, let me call you uncle. You deserve it too. Shoude hurriedly said, I know, your perception of the Su family is certainly not very good, but our Su and Wade families have long had an agreement on non-interference and non-confrontation. Over the past 10 or 20 years, we have always followed the tenet of keeping the water in the river and developing the economy separately. You can't break this agreement. Charlie snorted coldly, the agreement between you and the Wade family is a matter between you and it, and has nothing to do with me. Shoude said in a panic, Your surname is Wade. You must also abide by the agreement between the Wade family and us. Charlie sneered. I don't recognize any agreement between you and the Wade family, I only recognize 5 words. Which 5 words? Charlie said word by word. Parents' hatred is not shared. Shoude panicked even more and blurted out, but the death of your parents has nothing to do with our Sioux family. Charlie said coldly, your Sioux family took the lead in forming an anti-Wade alliance. For these words alone, you need to pay the price. Shoude quickly explained, Mr. Wade. When your father had an accident, I hadn't started taking over the Sioux family affairs specifically, and the anti-Wade alliance had nothing to do with me. Charlie stood up, grabbed Shoude's bathrobe collar, and sternly said, if it matters, it's not you who have the final say, but I have the final say. After that, he smiled faintly and said, Mr. Sioux, I have prepared a good room for you in the city. Since you are here, come with me and enjoy it. Shoude didn't know where Charlie would take him, let alone what he planned to do with him. Just by looking at Charlie's expression, he knew that it was definitely not a good thing, so he sobbed in fright and begged, Charlie, I really haven't done anything to hurt your father. The anti-Wade alliance was made by my father and my elder brother back then. Yes, you have the wrongdoer and the debtor. If you want revenge, you are looking for them. Charlie smiled and said, you Sioux family are really Fu King raccoon dogs. Whenever something happens, let your family take care of it. After speaking, his tone suddenly improved a bit, and he sternly said, but don't worry, your father and your brother can't run away, but it's a matter of time. Please come with me today. When the voice fell, Charlie stretched out his hand and slapped his forehead hard. Shoude only felt dizzy in his brain, and his whole person instantly lost consciousness. Immediately, Charlie asked Ruoli, where is Steve? Ruoli hurriedly said respectfully, coming back to young Master Wade, Steve was tied up after being knocked unconscious by me. He is on the balcony. It is good. Charlie nodded and said to Ruoli, Ruoli, you help me deal with the traces and don't leave any clues. Ruoli said without hesitation, okay young Master Wade, handling the scene is one of my best things. In the past, Ruoli worked for the Sioux family, and there were often assassinations or kidnappings. Every time Ruoli was able to clean up all clues without leaving a trace, she was very capable in this regard. Charlie handed the scene to her, and dragged Shoude, who was like a dead pig, to the huge balcony of the presidential suite. At this time, Steve, who was unconscious, had his hands and feet firmly bound by the sheets, and his body curled up into a spherical shape. Charlie took out his mobile phone and asked Isaac to tell the helicopter pilot to put down the rope, and firmly tied Steve and Shoude together with a sturdy nylon rope. Then the two were quietly lifted up by the winch. At this moment, Ruoli retreated while dealing with the footprints he had left, step by step back to the balcony, and respectfully said to Charlie, Master, everything is done. Charlie nodded. At this moment, Isaac sent a message, Master, a business car came from the airport and entered the hotel basement. The people from Shoude just blocked the basement. It is estimated that the people in this car should be there soon looking for him. You and Miss Sioux moved slightly faster. Charlie smiled slightly, it should be Shoude's friend here. As he said, he grabbed another rope and said to Ruoli, time is running out, you hug my waist, let's go up together. The helicopter only has 2 ropes on the left and right, the one hanging from Steve and Shoude. It is estimated that it will take at least 7 or 8 minutes to wait for the winch to lift them up, untie the ropes, and then lower the ropes. Since Shoude's lover has arrived in the hotel basement, it is estimated that she will come up soon, so in order not to leave any clues, it is better to leave as soon as possible. Therefore, if 2 people use the same rope, a lot of time can be saved. Ruoli nodded immediately, but when he thought of holding Charlie, her cheeks were already warm. At this time, Charlie had grabbed the rope and said to Ruoli, hold my waist, don't be afraid, I will hold you tight. Ruoli whispered, okay young Master Wade. After speaking, she mustered up her courage, stepped forward and hugged Charlie's waist. Feeling Charlie's hard chest muscles, Ruoli's face became more and more hot. This is the first time that she has been so close with a man. Charlie didn't think much about it. He hugged her tightly, wrapped the rope around the waists of the 2 of them a few times, and then squeezed one end of the rope in the hand that was holding Ruoli. After confirming that the ropes were tightly tied, he picked up the phone in the other hand and sent a voice message to Isaac. Just let the helicopter rise, hurry up and get out of here. Okay, master. Isaac did not dare to delay and immediately asked the pilot to raise the altitude. Charlie held Ruoli and was quickly picked up by the helicopter. In order to ensure safety, Charlie has been holding Ruoli tightly, and Ruoli also strongly hugged Charlie's waist. Immediately afterwards, the two people's ground clearance increased, and the helicopter pulled up to a height of several hundred meters, and then flew towards Orville's kennel. After the plane flew away, the fireworks show on the river finally died down. Both sides of the Yangtze River quickly returned from noisy to calm. At the same time, a woman wearing a mask, sunglasses and a peaked cap took an Alpha Nanny car and arrived at the second basement parking lot of the International Hotel. Shoude's people have been waiting here long ago. The nanny car stopped directly at the elevator entrance, and the surrounding area of the elevator had been completely cleared by Shoude's men. There could not be any paparazzi lurking in, and even the surveillance video of the hotel parking lot was required to be shut down. The car door opened, and the woman who completely covered her face stepped down. Shoude's assistant stepped forward and whispered, "Miss Zina, please come with me. The boss has been waiting for a long time." The woman hurriedly said, "Oh, then take me up quickly. Don't make him wait in a hurry. This woman is the most popular young actress, Zina. People in the entertainment industry know that there is a super powerful gold master behind Zina, but most people don't know who this gold master is." Since playing with Shoude, Zina's resources in the entertainment industry are so good that all actors are envious to death. Other actresses, with good resources, usually have the opportunity to appear in some larger movies and TV series every 3 to 5. Those actresses with good resources can make an annual drama by a well-known director every year. Actresses like Zina with extremely good resources generally don't have to do anything. The sponsor behind her will spend money to invite the best director, the hottest actor, and the hottest supporting role to play around her. A scene completely tailored for her alone. Others can burn incense and worship Buddha in a drama with an investment of hundreds of millions, thanking God. And it was Shoude who directly took several hundred million, and invited a bunch of big names in the entertainment industry to come and serve her. Mixing in the entertainment industry in this way can be said to be earth-shattering. It is precisely because of Shoude's energy in the entertainment circle that Zina is obedient to him. No matter where she is or what she is doing, as long as Shoude makes a call, she will fly to accompany him no matter how far away, and take care of this super gold master. Shoude's assistant directly invited Zina into the elevator, and then used the elevator administrator's key to adjust the elevator to the state of manual control, and directly let the elevator go to the top floor. As long as the manual state is adjusted inside the elevator, it will be useless for anyone outside to press the elevator on any floor, and the elevator will not stop. Within dozens of seconds, the elevator came to the top floor of the hotel. As soon as the elevator door opened, the assistant could not wait to step forward and respectfully said, "Miss Zina, please come with me." Zina also hurriedly followed. While walking quickly, she raised her wrist and looked at the limited edition Richard Mille worth tens of millions on her wrist. At this time, there are still about 40 seconds before the 10-minute deadline Shoude gave. Zina breathed a sigh of relief, and 40 seconds was enough to go to Shoude's room. Although even if she is late for a few minutes, he might not be angry, but Zina still did not dare to let him have any dissatisfaction with her. She knew that serving Shoude well was the most important thing for her right now. When she came to the entrance of the presidential suite, the assistant pressed the doorbell and whispered, "Boss, Miss is here." There was no response from the room. The assistant rang the doorbell again, but there was still no movement in the room. He turned around and said to Zina, "The boss may be taking a bath, wait a minute, I will press it again." Zina hurriedly said, "Let me call him." After speaking, she immediately took out her cell phone and called Shoude. Soon, the phone ringing was faintly heard in the room, but not only did Shoude not answer the phone, there was no other sound in the room. The assistant's expression froze for a while, and he blurted out nervously, "Sorry. It's probably something wrong. Something happened." "What happened?" When Zina heard this, she was shocked. The assistant hurriedly said, "I don't know exactly what happened, please wait a moment." After that, he immediately took out his cell phone, made a call, and said in a low voice, "Here, you come soon, the boss may have something wrong." 5 seconds later, the doors of several rooms near the elevator entrance opened almost at the same time. Backquote. A gray-haired old man in a tang suit took the lead and ran over quickly. Behind, more than a dozen men with extraordinary auras followed closely. Everyone's expression was solemn, and there was a little panic that was hard to conceal. Everyone hurried to the door of the presidential suite, headed by the white-haired old man hurriedly asked, "What's the matter?" The assistant said in a panic, "The boss didn't respond when I rang the doorbell, and no one answered the call, but the phone kept ringing inside." One of them asked, "The last time you saw boss, what was the boss doing?" The assistant hurriedly said, "The boss said he was going to take a bath." The man asked again, "Could it be that the boss fell asleep while taking a bath?" The assistant shook his head. "I don't know too well, but based on my understanding of the boss, he probably won't." There are some things the assistant can't say too clearly. For example, he knew very well that Shoude liked Xena very much. Every time Xena came to see him quietly, he would wait very excitedly for Xena to appear. Sometimes, in order to find a better state, he even arranges for himself to prepare some drugs to help. So, for that reason, he should not fall asleep at this time. At this time, the gray-haired old man said solemnly, "Even if the boss falls asleep in the bath, it is easy to have an accident without staring at it. Let's break in." The assistant also nodded quickly. "Want to know what happened to Shoude? Breaking the door is the only way." So, he immediately said to the old man, "Harvey, you decide everything." Old Harvey nodded, and when he was about to sink the inner strength of his body to his right leg, he kicked out suddenly, and the double door made of pure copper was kicked open. Immediately, he took the lead and rushed in. Shoude's presidential suite is very large, with an area of more than 400 square meters, and even has its own indoor swimming pool, which can be said to be extremely luxurious. Therefore, a bunch of people rushed in, struggling to find every corner, and then everyone met and came to a conclusion that shocked them: Shoude is missing. What? Not missing. The world is, he has evaporated. Harvey, who was originally very immortal, is now panicking to death. His face is covered with wrinkles caused by tension. As he paced back and forth in the living room, he said eagerly, "What the hell is going on? We have been paying attention to the elevator entrance and stairway, and we can be sure that the boss never left at all, and we didn't hear any unusual movement. Why did the boss disappear?" The assistant blurted out and asked, "Elder Harvey, do you want to send someone to look downstairs? Can he accidentally fall down?" Hearing this, Harvey immediately rushed to the balcony, leaned on the luxurious railing and looked down. While watching, he said, "There is nothing unusual below, it must not be a fall." Someone couldn't help but muttered, "He didn't go down, and he's not in the room. Has he gone up?" Up. Hearing this, old Harvey frowned and said, "Upstairs is the rooftop, and you can't get up from the room. It's even more impossible. Can he just fly away? This is too weird." Someone said in a flustered manner, "Even if you F at RT, it will leave a little smell. How could a big living person suddenly say that he disappeared?" Disappeared. After reading around, the assistant said, "The boss's clothes are still there, and the bathrobe is missing. If he left quietly, he would at least change into his clothes. Could he be kidnapped?